Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the death of Chad Dorrill. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. He sadly succumbed to coronavirus, and he was 19 years old. He was a college basketball player at a college, and of course, in North Carolina. And his story has made the news. And the thing about this is, well, first thing, of course, I want to send my condolences and prayers out to the close friends and family members of Chad. And the thing is, it's terrible and very traumatic and devastating to have somebody pass away at such a young age, at 19 years old. Now, his birthday I have is December 17, 2000. It was stated he was 19 years old in a number of articles, blogs online. You can find that. And on a Twitter post, somebody had wished him a happy birthday on December 17th. So it's safe to say, based on that, you could surmise that his birthday would be December 17, 2000, because that would make him 20 in December. And currently, I'm sorry, when the time he passed, he was 19 years old. But anyway, I want to talk about some natal placements in his chart and transits that might have contributed to his death. Another thing I want to talk about, though, is that this was something, I think part of the reason that this made a lot of number of headlines and this becomes somewhat popular story on social media was that he was very healthy, he was athletic, very tall and slim, and somebody, I mean, it just goes to show you, and I've said this in previous videos and I'll say it again, is that nobody is impervious or invincible to this coronavirus unless they have there's certain, I understand there's if I'm saying right, asymptomatic people, but I guess what I'm saying is, no matter it, you're not going to be invincible to this based on your physique alone. That will physique and your physical constitution. No matter how, even very healthy people can get this. Now I understand that some people may have this, they may be asymptomatic, and there might be some people that have certain blood types that have less propensity for it, but this is not going to show, I guess what I'm saying is not going to show partiality. It's not going to be biased to somebody based on their general health and constitution, because I mean, we had somebody that was 19 years old and very healthy, very athletic, that did succumb to this. And the thing about this is, though, it was stated on some, I think it was on Yahoo News, that he had some kind of it was some rare, that somebody had suspected at some time he had some rare neurological issue which may have which have attacked which could attack the it's something like something with the immune system that attacks the nerves or something, but you can confirm that online, and that's speculation anyway. But there was suspicion that maybe this COVID-19 coronavirus might have spurred that on, and might have played a role in his passing. And now there's some natal placements. I'm going to talk about some transits that he had that may have been tied into his passing. Now, one thing I noticed that stood out to me is that he's got in his chart, okay, he's this again, December 17, 2000 is the birth date. And of course, I had to improvise and do a solar/sunrise chart and put the sun at the same position as the ascendant. Sun in Sagittarius. I have his moon in Virgo. And the thing about this is, when I look at I mean, the sun in Sagittarius, of course, I mean, that could be about our lives. It's the basic character of the individual. And I mean, sadly, he had the transit south node in Sagittarius had recently made a separating conjunction from his sun. And as I've stated in previous videos, when you have the south node involved in a transit in a chart and it's conjuncting something, It can often indicate what we're going away from. And the fact is, the sun is associated with life. It's our vitality and energy. And you have the south, when the south node is hitting it, sometimes that could be the passing of one's life. And the fact that the sun is in Sagittarius, one that was sure full of, I'm sure where he expressed a lot of exuberance, and in this case, athletic ability, prowess for sports, one one a life that was filled with exuberance, expansive, enthusiastic energy, a person that was a life where he exhibited a lot of optimism, and I'm sure that expansive energy spread was contagious and spread over to others because Sagittarius can be the incorrigible optimist, and this is something, no thing that I noticed as well. Also, the South Node in Sagittarius was also approaching his Mercury in Sagittarius, and Mercury is associated with the brain. Mercury in the solar sunrise chart falls in the 12th house of limitations and restrictions. And the thing about that is that could also be a passing of the functioning of the brain, is how I think that can manifest when you're talking about transit south node. Uh, Even if it's not in a separating conjunction, if it's making a conjunction, it still, I believe, can have an effect where it's getting something is at least approach. It's an indicator of something passing, and Mercury is associated with the brain. Mercury being in Sagittarius is in its detriment, and I don't know if that would really have much to do with it, but it does. But it is in its detriment in Sagittarius, in the 12th house of restrictions and limitations. He also has in his chart, he has a series of conjunctions. A stellium, which is the series of conjunctions in Sagittarius, starting with Pluto and ending with the Sun. Now, as I've stated in previous videos, when you have a stellium, you have that series of conjunctions, it basically, an astrological statement is made, starting out with the beginning planet in the series of conjunctions and then culminating with the final planet. Pluto is the beginning planet. Pluto can be about death. And then it hits Chiron, conjuncts Chiron. Chiron can be about physical wounds and suffering. Then it's followed by Mercury, which is the brain, and then followed by the Sun, which is about life, starting out with Pluto, something deadly, something that was, in this case, a virus, led sadly to the ending of his life, ending with the Sun in Sagittarius. And being with all this energy being in Sagittarius, it's not surprising this took place in a period with higher, it was on a global scale. I'm sure people all over the country can see this news. It was something that was on a very large scale, something that took place in higher education, and it was a time when he was involved in athletics, sadly. And this is just, this is just terrible again. But astrology, it's so eerily accurate, and when you see things like this, all it does is it confers and reaffirms and really validates what, as far as astrology's accuracy. And the thing that I noticed too, in his chart, another thing that stood out to me is that transit Jupiter was also very close proximity to his natal South Node in Capricorn. And again, when the South Node is involved in transit, it can reflect what one may be going away from. Jupiter could be associated with sports. Being in Capricorn, he may have been aspiring to have some career in sports. This was in the first house of the physical body in the solar/sunrise chart. And the fact that this was being in Capricorn, it might have been something that he was very consistent with, had a lot of responsibility toward, something he did very consistently and maybe in a very orthodox and conventional manner as far as how he played basketball. Now, I don't know if he was involved in any other sports, but anyway, another thing too is that he had transit North Node in Gemini in the sixth house. Now, I don't think this attacked his respiratory system, but this is still when you have the north or any, I don't know if it's anything Gemini related, because again, this was something that wasn't typical as far as the symptoms that he had to cope with during this time of this when he contracted, he had this COVID-19. But when you have the North Node transiting in the sixth house, it can reflect issues that you might have to confront or address regarding health-related matters. And that did make at least a loose opposition to his natal sun in Sagittarius as well. Now, there was apparently some issues where he couldn't move his legs during the time of him having COVID-19. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, and I noticed one thing that I looked at in his chart is that he did have, he has some transits in his first house. The Saturn in the first house. Saturn could be about the more Saturn Capricorn, and Capricorn energy can be about more of the upper legs and the knees. But the issues that he had with the the lower, with the when you're talking about the legs, it's upper and lower. Now he has Neptune and Aquarius in his chart, even though it's generational by itself, it can sometimes indicate dissolving energy weakness, suffering with the lower legs. And he also had the Black Moon, Lilith, and Aquarius make a fairly close conjunction to it. The Black Moon, Lilith can add more suffering and sadly add the more abject misery, I believe, to things as well when it contacts something. Another thing too, what I'm looking at is that it was stated that this attacked his brain, and interestingly enough, transit Mercury in Scorpio, mysterious Scorpio, was not far from his natal Mars in Libra at this time. Now, Mars could be about attacking in the brain, and Mercury can be associated with the brain. The fact, I don't know if Mercury may have been in Libra at the time when they had discovered this, though, but the fact you have Mercury close to Mars is still an indicator of the attacking of the brain at this time of passing. Sadly, transit Mercury in Scorpio, the sign of death, and something that's dark and something mysterious. There may be some things about this that maybe the people that the doctors still might not quite clearly understand. It would not shock me or surprise me in the least. Now, another thing too is when you have we're talking about in the solar sunrise chart, he does have Leo on the 8th house cusp. That could be an indicator of a death that gains some notoriety, attention, and recognition. And I'm just trying to see if there's any other things that I'm seeing in this chart that might have been tied in to his passing. Now, another thing, well, I see that he has Aries on the cusp of the 4th house. The 4th house is the end of life in astrology. Aries is associated with the brain. This did attack his brain at the end of his life. Transit Uranus was in that 4th house in the solar sunrise chart, and Uranus can be about neurological issues. And again, it's speculation, but somebody that was close to him, to his family, suspected that this may have been tied in to a neurological condition. And the ruler of that 4th house Mars falls in the 10th house of notoriety, recognition, and again, this is another indicator that this was something that was going to be publicized, and obviously got a lot of publicity. And try to see if there's anything else as far as any transits or any natal placements that may have been tied in, sadly, to a very untimely passing. Again, only 19 years old. And again, what this ties into is that nobody is really, I mean, you're talking about no one is really impervious or invincible to dying early, no matter how healthy they are and no matter how even vigorous they might be or strong or athletic. This is just something that this COVID-19, people have to really take this seriously. And I want to add on another note, if people are thinking that this is going to just dissipate and go away by election day, I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening, considering what, as far as the United States, at least is what I'm referring to, as far as the daily case count we have at this time. We're about a month away from election day, and the last reading I had, as far as the confirmed case count of COVID-19 in the United States for one day, for a calendar day, was like around 34,000 or something. And so this is not just going, I don't think it's going to be far from over, even at election time. I really do believe it. I would be flabbergasted, be in a state of shock if there's some kind of dramatic turn of events and all of a sudden we're at election day and it's like 5,000 per day or something. I mean, I don't know if people think they're envisioning that all of a sudden we're going to hit election day and this thing is just going to drop so significantly that the number is going to be the average daily count around that time is going to be so vastly different than what we're actually averaging around this time, which is around 35,000, 40,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases per day. But anyway, I went off on a Gemini moon tangent there. Sorry, people, but I'm just trying to see if there's any, again, not to be redundant, just trying to see if there's anything else in the chart that may have been an indicator of his untimely passing. He did have a number of transits in that first house of the physical body in the solar sunrise chart. Transit Jupiter, again, I talked about those hitting, being very close to his south node before and what it meant, but it could another thing is Pluto. When Pluto is hitting one's first house, that could be sometimes an indicator of a passing of death, because Pluto is associated with death. And we're talking about first house is the physical body, and transit Saturn in the first house can give limitations and restrictions connected with the physical body as well, being in Capricorn, the upper legs. And when it's stated that it was a period where he couldn't move his legs because of this situation with COVID-19. I'm assuming that's the upper and lower legs. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.